This lighter has very advanced technology, but when you light it, it takes you back to the caveman era. Today, I'm going to tell you how the lighter is practically a time machine. To make fire, we need three things. It's usually said that there's a fire triangle, which are the three things needed for it to happen. A fuel, which is the thing that's going to catch fire, like wood, gasoline, cotton, or maybe even a fart. The oxidizer is something that will react with the fuel, almost always. In 99.9% of cases, the oxidizer is the oxygen in the air. That's why rockets, for example, need to carry a tank of fuel and a tank of oxygen, because it's not enough to just bring the fuel. One needs to react with the other. But if we only have these two, the fire won't start. If you put gasoline right here in front of you, it won't react with the oxygen in the air. If there's no spark, if there's no bit of energy to start the reaction, it doesn't have to be a spark. It could be heat, something that gives a little push at the beginning. And that's why, historically, humans have always struggled to make fire. If you watch that video where I tried to make fire with a stick with Celso Cavallini, we really struggled there. I had the right material and great guidance, but it still took me about 4 hours to start a fire. That's why adventurers carry tinder to make fire, and why barbecue lighters exist. In short, it's not a simple thing. But when you have a lighter in your hand, you think it's extremely simple. So let's take this little guy apart to see how it works. First of all, down here, there's a reservoir of liquefied gas. If you look at it against the light like this, you can see there's a liquid inside. That's because the gas is pressurized inside, so it remains liquid. It's the same gas used in the kitchen, butane. They add an extra odor to gas cylinders, so leaks can be detected, since the gas is originally odorless. In the case of the lighter, it doesn't have any smell because there's very little gas. If it leaks, it's not dangerous and nothing will explode. Pressing the red button on the lighter releases a small amount of gas, though you may not hear it. But the big secret is in this little wheel, which when you turn it, creates the spark. And this spark only happens because of a little magic stone inside here, which in this case can't be removed with pliers. Let's use a screwdriver. And that's the reason we made this video. Normally, it jumps out when you open it, because there's a little spring underneath that presses the stone against this metal wheel. Here, look at the spring. This is the stone, and this is the metal wheel. This is a really cool result of materials engineering work. It was created in 1903. It's an alloy of iron with cerium. Cerium with a C. The role of iron here is to generate the spark. When you scrape iron really fast and hard, it releases hot little pieces. It's not very interesting to just say that, right? Let's see. Maybe you've never seen it in practice. Very beautiful. But we couldn't just put a grinder here in the lighter with the iron in front, because for the iron to come off with those sparks, it needs a lot of force, a lot of energy. You can't do that by hand, which is where cerium comes in. This metal is softer than iron and reacts easily with air. So, when you mix iron with cerium, you get an alloy called ferrocerium. And when you scrape it, it's much easier to get sparks from it. Just to clarify, the name cerium has nothing to do with being serious or grumpy like that. Cerium gets its name from the dwarf planet Ceres, that little planet between Mars and Jupiter. That was discovered in the early 1800s. And Ceres are named after the Roman goddess Ceres, the deity of agriculture and fertility, and were discovered around the same time. Besides being used to make lighter flints, cerium is also used in car exhaust systems to trigger a chemical reaction that reduces pollution. This technological innovation, a material that produces sparks when scraped, was introduced in lighters in 1932. In this type of lighter, here, which is the Zippo, cerium was discovered in the early 1800s, but it only became part of the alloy more than 100 years later. This lighter won't wear out. Here, there's cotton for lighter fluid, which soaks up the liquid and delivers it to a wick, ensuring fuel is always available. There's no button to release gas since it's liquid and won't leak. The flint is below, with a wheel like store-bought lighters. But when you run your finger here, it sparks lights up, and it won't go out anymore. It will only go out when we cut it off. One of the items from that pyramid, the oxidizer, oxygen here by covering the lighter. But maybe you wonder, if this started in 1930, how did people light fires a little before 1930? Using a stone. A real stone. There is a natural lighter stone that was used by cavemen. And yes, we managed to buy a few. This here is flint. It was widely used by humans, not only to light fires, but also to make spear tips and the first knives. We also received a polished, rounded version of this stone. I'm not a big fan of these polished crystals, but you can see, it's not one of the nicest stones. So, before we test the stone to see if we can make fire, let's break it to see if it really becomes sharp. I'll admit I tried making arrowheads from stone as a kid, but they didn't flake or get sharp like this. Cavemen weren't smart. Since we have it, let's break it with this one. I don't know if this was the way they used to flake stone, but I think I got some pretty sharp pieces here. I'm going to try to cut a little stick using the stone I just flaked. It cut through in 3 strokes. It's really good. Let's finish off the end of the cord here with the lighter itself. By the way, here's a tip. After you melt the tip, don't finish it off with your hand. Not with your hand. Use the lighter's body to run over the cord like this, so any melted plastic sticks to the lighter, not your hand. Do you think it can cut here? It took 10 seconds at most. This thing is efficient. I think it would be worth making a separate video just about this. But anyway, how is it did you use to light a fire using this stone? Striking them together produces sparks much like ferrocerium. I bought this tray so we could light a fire here on Manual do Mundo. I think it's worth turning down the lights so we can see the sparks, if I can even do it, because I'm not sure if this stone is exactly the one they used. Whenever we discuss minerals, small differences matter greatly. This is flint, supposedly the same stone, but I don't know. Maybe there's some detail I'm missing. I'm going to make some tinder, which is something that starts the fire, very flammable. It's going to be cotton with petroleum jelly. I have a spray petroleum jelly, so I'll take advantage of how easy this idea of cotton with petroleum jelly is. Celso Cavallino was the one who taught me this. I use it to light my fireplace at home with great results, but I buy the liquid petroleum jelly. Jansa wants to know if it's good for lighting a barbecue grill. I've never found a better fire starter. You just need to really soak the cotton in paraffin, and it burns for a long time. Lighting with petroleum jelly is easy, unlike paraffin, which requires melting and is harder to light. Petroleum jelly is simple and ideal for camping. Paraffin may suit grills or fireplaces, but I only recommend petroleum jelly. The spark comes out. Light a fire. It's not easy to make fire, guys. Let's try a little more. Look, cavemen were persistent, you know. Maybe they had more time than I do. They spent hours and hours doing this, but it's very likely they had a better technique, right? From prehistory through the Middle Ages, this was a primary way to start a fire, LD. It involved striking stones together in front of a nest or tinder, something that would easily catch fire. Later, something called a flint was invented, which was a stone like this, but with a more refined shape. It's not a rough stone that you strike against a rougher metal, like a file. Let's see if I can make fire this way, right? Because theoretically, it's a bit more industrial, more advanced. I think there's fire coming out. Let's record in the dark to see, because I think there's more fire coming out than before. Is making a big scene necessary just to light a lighter in public? Shouldn't it be easier? Maybe I should try striking the file against the stone instead. Ah. My grandfather told me that when he was a child, he used a primitive lighter called a binga, which was a piece of cow horn. Inside there was charred cotton, which catches fire more easily than unburned cotton. And inside there was also a small piece of flint and a little file, and you would strike the flint against the file or the file against the flint. The spark landed on charred cotton, ignited, and was then covered with wood or cork. So let's burn a little bit of cotton to try to imitate this binga phenomenon, because maybe it catches fire more easily than charred cotton. I don't know why cotton catches fire more easily when it's already a bit burned. Maybe it's the same principle as charcoal, which is wood where you've removed everything that isn't carbon, and only carbon remains. Maybe it catches fire better. It caught. I'm not sure if it was exactly this kind of fire here, but hold on. There's a bit of straw at least, to prove that this is actually catching fire. I'm struggling to transfer something. But you notice there's a little ember there. I couldn't do it like the caveman. But like my grandpa, who lived about 80 years ago, we managed to do it. After ferrocerium was invented, flint unfortunately started being sold as a collector's stone and so on, because it didn't make sense anymore to light a fire using this stone, which is a lot of work. But there's still a tool today that we still call a flint, which is this little ferrocerium rod here that comes with a small metal plate. You can scrape one against the other and light a fire at a campsite, or light a fire on an adventure, because the advantage is that this can get wet. It lasts a long time, you won't run out of gas or anything like that. Shall we try it? It throws sparks endlessly. Look how nice that is. This is exactly the same thing as a lighter flint, just bigger. So theoretically, I can start a fire very easily. If I'm not clumsy, let's do it. Ah. It took 2 seconds. Try again. That's how it is. You get it right the first time and then it doesn't work anymore. Look how nice the cotton with petroleum jelly catches a very steady flame. It hardly uses up the cotton because what's really burning is the petroleum jelly, and it's safe too, right? Petroleum jelly is nearly solid, so it doesn't spread easily. So basically, millennia ago, we had flint with flint. Then we started striking flint against iron, or iron against flint. And then after the invention of ferrocerium, we have a modern flint or a device that can start a fire with just a few turns of the hand. And that's why this instrument here reminds us of the Stone Age. But to finish, I want to do something I've always wanted to do. I have a giant lighter stone here. It's this ferrocerium rod that I got, which weighs about 200 or 300 grams. Imagine the sparks this thing would throw if we suddenly put it on the grinder. Let's clean up the mess, right? Before we start, a dean scene. Ah, woo. If this isn't worth a like, I don't know what is. This video is almost promoting cigarettes. Was there a cigarette in the video? No. Did I smoke? No. Did I say cigarettes are healthy? No. I suggest you watch a video where we built a cigarette machine, LD, to show how just one cigarette can keep dirtying a filter. Check it out. We're including it at the end.